the brilliant former Met Police detective Peter Bleksley. Welcome, Pete.
You're nicked, me old sunshine. Get in the van, mind your head. Said that a few times back in the day. Anyway.
You don't hear that anymore, do you, among coppers? You know, I can imagine you knocking on Alison Pearson's door and saying, right, get in the van, you're nicked. You tweeted something 9 months ago that we don't like the look of. I mean, what is going on? Suella Braverman is right. My question to you, Peter, as an old copper, why is it that police chiefs around the country are allowing their forces, their coppers, to go round challenging people's right to post tweets, to say what they like, challenging people's right to freedom of expression? Why has this happened? How is this happening?
Okay, firstly, can I just say that Alison Pearson, the wonderful Alison Pearson, has just had a new article about her relationship with Lucy Connolly drop on the Telegraph. So if you want to go and find that, it's a very worthy read, of course. Suella Braverman is absolutely right on this issue, unshakably right, and she needs to say more, and we all need to be having this conversation. And finally, to answer your question, Kev. Okay, senior police, in fact, most of policing now is in the grip of academia. Back in 1997, when Blair said education, 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 all the ambitious cops thought, we'll have a piece of this. And off they went to university. University, can you imagine it? Police officers. And when they went to many of those left-leaning, neon Marxist establishments, they got their heads filled with a load of pseudo-intellectual claptrap, which has no relevance to policing. And for the last 30 years, they have propagated it. If you want to get promoted, go to university. They rolled it out so far that most of the frontline cops had to go to university. And I've been to those universities to see those police officers trained firsthand. I've been there. I've seen it. A few months ago, I was on the front line with the cops. I've seen it. The cops, generally speaking, on the front line, decent. The senior management, leftist, liberal, woke, dangerous people who wouldn't know a criminal if they bit them on the rear end.
Yeah, we're looking at pictures of Suella Braverman when she was Home Secretary, wandering around High Street that I know quite well, Golders Green, funnily enough. But she said that coppers are stamping on freedom of speech, and basically for this she ended up kind of losing her job. Now, she was the Home Secretary who said, we've had an inquiry into this. I hereby now instruct every chief constable in the country to stop their officers recording non-crime hate incidents. These are when, if I phone up and say Peter Bleksley just called me a nasty name and I think it was racially motivated, even though there's no basis to this, they don't bother investigating, they don't talk to me or you, they just write it down. And they just compile these lists of, shall we say, dubious incidents, usually by people, shall we say, of a right-wing persuasion, people that the police think might be a bit racist and so on and so forth. So they're kind of woke lists in a way. Now, as the Home Secretary in charge of the cops, the police forces, Suella Braverman said, right, this, if it's not a crime, this has got nothing to do with the police. So I'm instructing you, I'm ordering you all now to stop compiling lists of non-crime hate incidents. All the police chiefs, yeah, fair enough, boss, yeah, got it. And then they just ignored her and carried on. So they are obeying a higher force than their boss, than the Home Secretary.
Yes, and their directives are coming from two bodies. First of all, the College of Policing, led by the chairman, Lord Herbert. I threw a few Herberts into the back of police vans in my time. there might be another one I'd like to do exactly the same to. He defends this hugely discredited organisation. Speak to police officers in confidence, not in public, and they will tell you that organisation is a busted flush, but it's a dangerous, continuingly appalling organisation. So much of the police's ills stem from the College of Policing. The other organisation, the National Police Chiefs Council, full of the wokerati. People like John Robbins at West Yorkshire Police, who is a chief constable that wants to bring more laws in about positive discrimination. They are gripped by this liberal, nonsensical, dangerous thinking. It flows down to the front line. And last week, Kev, I put a joke on
I
Twitter.
I saw it. Yeah.
Right. It was a hysterical joke.
It was funny. It was bloody funny.
Thank you. And many, many people found it funny. Then what happened, after about a day or so, the people that don't have a sense of humour, in other words, the lunatic left, they got sight of it. Dozens of them reported me to the Metropolitan Police, Counter-Terrorism Police, and they wanted me arrested for incitement. I broke no law, none whatsoever. It wouldn't even get within 1 million miles of being one of those dreaded non-crime hate incidents. But the easily offended melted, bless them, the snowflakes that they are, and they wanted the police to do something about it. And that largely is based on the fact that in the past, the police have done stupid things like they did to Julian Foulkes.
Yeah, exactly right. I mean, I saw your tweet and people saying, no, I'm reporting you to Twitter, I'm reporting you to the police. And I tweeted back to the girl or the lady in question and said, it's called a joke. You know, it's actually a joke and a rather funny one at that. You know, lighten up. It is ridiculous. But the point is that the police will then take this seriously. That's what they do. They kind of indulge these humourless politico bores with these fatuous complaints against people like you because you dare to perhaps not be left-wing. They think that people like us, that our crime is that we're right of centre, you know, somehow or other. So, you know, it is absurd. There was a police inquiry some years ago, 5 or 6 years ago, I seem to remember. I can't remember who was in charge of it, but at the end of it, he said to the police, right, the way you go about your business, first of all, you've got to stop calling people victims until the crime is proven. So in other words, if I go in and say I'm the victim of rape, the police immediately start describing me as the victim. Now, you cannot be a victim until that crime is proven, because I could be lying. Do you see what I mean? So
yeah.
This inquiry told the police, stop this. Stop describing people as victims as soon as they make an allegation of a crime. The police forces around the country collectively decided to ignore that and to carry on as they were. So they got form with this. They get told not to do this woke nonsense. They get told to act like coppers, you know, to stop behaving as if everybody who tells them the story of a crime is telling the truth. They get told to stop recording non-crime hate incidents, but they won't do it. They won't do it.
They are gripped by it. They are absolutely gripped by this liberal left thinking. Somebody who, yes, I think I can call them a friend, okay, who sits in the House of Lords, went to a gathering of senior police officers not so long ago, stood up, spoke about the matters that we've been talking about, urged them to change their ways, and when they were having a cup of coffee afterwards, this member of the House of Lords overheard senior police officers describing this person as dangerous. Dangerous because they challenge their woke think. Anybody who has a contradicting view, who has a dissenting or a differing voice, is broadly brushed as dangerous. So they're not going to change soon unless we get more of the likes of Suella Braverman fighting on behalf of right-thinking people and doing the right thing.
Indeed, you know, what about that case of the Julian Foulkes? Was it only last week we found out about that? Coppers, 6 coppers with tasers, sort of bursting into a 71-year-old former voluntary copper's home, and basically accusing him of potential racism or race hate because of some tweet he did to suggest that some of these pro-Palestine marches may have spilled over into anti-Semitism. Oh, perish the thought. So for that, he gets his house ransacked. They find a copy of The Spectator and a book by Douglas Murray, and they say, oh, your house is full of Brexity things. You got generations of coppers who seem to be being I don't know, brainwashed by the bosses that to be right-wing, and by the way, I don't think Julian Foulkes was particularly right-wing. Reading The Spectator doesn't make you right-wing, it makes you potentially centrist or whatever. But they think that if you're, you know, demonstrably right of centre, that that's some kind of crime.
And they're so stupid, they couldn't realise that the tweet he put out was actually satirical. It was in response to a lot of traffic on Twitter or X about pro-Palestinian marches and them really being very anti-Semitic. So he then tweeted, one step away from going to Heathrow to search out for Jews. So he was being sarcastic, satirical. They took it literally and sent 6 of them round to his house. Unfortunately, Julian clearly must have felt bullied into accepting a caution, but once the Telegraph exposed this ridiculous story, that caution was expunged, set aside, got rid of. But this is what they're doing. This is why we must have to stand up and fight against this very, very damaging way of thinking, which is ruining the reputation of the police, destroying the relationship between the working man and woman and the police, and leaving the reputation of policing in absolute tatters.
Absolutely. Just watching the footage of the outrageous search of Julian Foulkes' home. And yeah, what we're talking about here, Pete, apart from just a sort of wokery now being in the police's DNA, sort of left-wing lunacy being a part of their makeup, we're talking about the death of common sense. These coppers don't show any common sense whatsoever. So 6 coppers with tasers to burst into the home of a 71-year-old man. There he is, Julian Foulkes. He looks like an enemy of the people, doesn't he? Very dangerous. They found a shopping list by his wife. So his wife became a person of interest. She then became a suspect because guess what they found on her shopping list? They found, written down, gloves, rubber gloves, bleach and tin foil. She was obviously a terrorist. No, she's a hairdresser. I mean, where is the common sense in people who look, you know, this is a nice couple live in Gillingham in Kent, retired couple. Where is the common sense in the coppers who look at these people and go, right, let's ransack their house. Look, this woman's obviously, she's obviously a wrong one as well. This is just, it's moronic.
The special constabulary is a very important part of policing. Well-intentioned members of the public volunteer to give up their own time for no payment whatsoever to wear a police uniform, carry a warrant card and face the same risks that regular officers do. Julian Foulkes did that for over a decade. So if you work out that it's like, well, 4 hours a week, which is the minimum contribution a volunteer cop has to do, roll that over 52 weeks. So what's that? 200 hours a year. Multiply that by 10. This is thousands of hours that this man gave of his own time to policing communities, trying to keep people safe and locking up bad people. And that's the way he got treated for a sarcastic, satirical tweet, which the police were too stupid to understand.
Yeah, lack of common sense, and it's going to cost Kent Constabulary dear, because Julian Foulkes quite rightly is suing them, and it's an open and shut case because they have admitted they were wrong to do what they did. But if we go back to Alison Pearson, my friend and colleague on the Telegraph, a very fine columnist, it was on Memorial Sunday, Remembrance Sunday, 9:30 in the morning, while she was still in her dressing gown, two coppers from Essex Police bang on her door and say, "Oh, we got this tweet that you put out a year ago. It's very problematical." And, you know, they picked on the wrong person. She went to town on it, wrote about it and so on and so forth. In the end, Essex Police had to say, oh, yeah, no further action. But the Chief Constable of Essex then stood up and said, we did the right thing, knocking on her door and interrogating her. No, mate, you did the wrong thing. Until they're going to learn that this is the wrong thing for the police to do, we're in trouble as a society, aren't we?
We most definitely are. The police should be protecting free speech and not policing it. And what I mean by that is, if you go to Speaker's Corner on a Sunday morning, in all likelihood, you will find Christian preachers being shouted down, hounded away from Speaker's Corner by people who are very vociferous and of different faiths, shall I say. And do the police stand there courageously and say, this is everybody's space, everybody can speak here, we're protecting free speech? No, they usher people quietly away. We see countless examples of this when anybody wants to challenge certain people of certain views and certain demonstrations, and the police are being seen increasingly to be taking a side which is not the side of the moderate majority of the people in the UK. And until they wake up and realise how wrong they're getting it, then I say, shame on them.
Yeah, I think we are in trouble. We've got a lot of work to do to bring our police back into line, because I think they're working against the interests of a free democratic Western society. They really, really are. Peter, it's always great to talk to you. Thank you so much for your time. Peter Bleksley there, former Met Police detective.